direction of the earth, north, south, east, and west. When they did their dances, they always came in from the east, like the sun comes up. They would exit toward the east. In our dances, they were always done in a counterclockwise manner. Now, we never danced for entertainment. We never danced for pleasure. We were not a colorful tribe. We didn't have all brightly colored feathers on when we danced. Our dances had meanings, but before we danced, this right here was called sacred. That right here was called neutral. This was a barrier between you and I. When our ceremonies were going on, in our 7 clans, whichever clan you belonged to, you were not taking part in our dances. That's where you would be seated. Also, you'll hear more about this in the council house. The ones that hadn't been down there, you'll hear about our 7 clans. The number 7 is very sacred to the Cherokees. Also, in our square grounds, we had large poles placed in the ground. Those were called punishing poles. While our ceremonies were going on and your child misbehaved and came across this barrier of sin, then you, the parent, was taken and tied. You were tied to that pole and left to stand there through the duration of our ceremonies, which sometimes lasted 7 days. Now, it was up to the elder person whether you got something to eat or something to drink, because that's your punishment for your child misbehaving. Now, during our dances were always done dedicating them to one supreme being. We would dance thanking the Supreme Being for a wonderful harvest. We would dance thanking Him for a safe return of our warriors from battle. We would dance thanking Him for a successful hunt the night before, and after that we would dance again thanking Him. And during the dances, our women also could take part in our dances. They also were highly respected in our council. They sat in the council along with the chiefs. The man that would dance, led the dance, or the woman, they were called the lead dancer. Before we had metal tools to make any type of mask, they would just use bark from different types of trees. Then once they had the metal tools, they could make masks that would represent some of the animals, like you saw down here in the wood carving section. And during those dances, we had other material, instruments. Our drums back then, we had no metal tools, so we made our drums out of large pieces of pottery called coil pottery, with animal skins stretched over the top. We also had several instruments like the rattle. Now, we would grow these gourds in our garden. They're grown all over the world, but they're not edible. So we would grow these. We had other uses for them. One was a rattle. They would take this, let it dry out, take the seeds out, and insert small sticks and rocks to give it a sound for their dances. This is called a box turtle, woodland tarpon. It's native in this area. Now, again, the meat in this is very edible, so they would take the meat out, cook it, and eat it. Then they would dry the shell. They would put rocks and, again, a small stick after it dried, and they had a rattle like this. When the women took part in their dances, they would only wear rattles like this. They would tie them just below the knee, and as they shuffled their foot, they made a different sound. Once we had metal tools, we could make drums. We made 2 types. This is called the water drum. Now, this was only hollowed one side, about 2 inches thick on the bottom. They had a hickory band to hold the top on. They found out by adding different amounts of water on this drum here, in this drum, they got a different tone. This is called a single tone drum, or better known to most people as a tom-tom. This was hollowed all the way through. Animal skin stretched on both sides. The animal that we use is called the groundhog because his skin is very tough. Like I said earlier, our dances were never colorful. Yeah, the only dance that we ever had or ever did was with the feathers was called the eagle dance. And this was done in 3 parts. Since today the eagle stands for peace, we danced for peace back then also, and victory. And third, we danced thanking the eagle for the use of his feathers. We had several young men that were chosen to go out and capture the eagle. Now, when he was captured, he was not injured in any way. Just so many feathers were removed from him, then he was released. They would make a wand, and in doing the dance, they would imitate that eagle in flight. But also at one time, this was a very superstitious dance. They believed while dancing, and that dancer touched that wand to this mound of sand, a member from his family or he would soon die. Now, we could not send drum signals or smoke signals like you may have read about other tribes did. We couldn't do it. Our village is built to give you an idea about how our villages were set up in mountainous areas, ravines. So we tried to send a drum signal, it would just echo back and forth. Our smoke would just rise to our treetops and fade away or blend in with the blue haze that hangs over the Great Smoky Mountains. We had one time had a runner or relay system. Several young men were chosen to be able to do that. When a message needed to be sent to another village, they would run that relay to another runner, then it would go on until it reached its destination. Years later, a man by the name of George Guest, born near Fort Loudon, Tennessee. He was half white, half Cherokee, better known as Sequoia. Now, he could not read nor write, but he came up with a solution where the Cherokees could read and write and speak their own native tongue. It took him 12 years to come up with this. And when he did complete it, he came up with 86 syllables. That makes up our Cherokee alphabet today. Now in our Cherokee language, we cannot find a curse word. We cannot tell you goodbye. Our language is also written in the New Testament and some of the hymn books in our churches that the elders use. Also, we made our first newspaper in 1824 in New Echota, Georgia. It was called the Cherokee Phoenix. It was written both in Cherokee and also in English. Later on, the government set up what they call boarding schools for the elders, great-great-great-great-grandparents. When they were children, they were sent to these schools. And while in that school, if that child was caught speaking the Cherokee language, he was taken out back and severely punished. He was told not to speak it no more, to learn English, forget about the language. So when they got home, they would tell their mom and dads about this. So after that, it almost died out. On down the line, they quit teaching it to their children and their children's children, thinking it's going to be that way while they went to school. They didn't want them punished like they went through. Also, intermarriages almost got us our lost, our language there. Kids marrying, and then them not wanting to learn, then not teaching their children because the children didn't want to learn. Therefore, again, our language almost died out. Now we have what we call immersion programs located here in Cherokee. Also, it's taught in our public schools because we do have Native children that go to these public schools. But up here, it's taught. When that child goes into daycare, he's taught the Cherokee language. When he gets into kindergarten, it's taught again. And it will follow him all through high school, our new high school up here. You don't have to be a Native American to attend our high school. Our immersion programs, though, we have computers in our labs at our kindergarten as well as high school. Now those children can get on them computers, and the computers have the Cherokee alphabet on them. So they can do their work using the Cherokee language. They do their math using the Cherokee language. And then they can switch back and do it in English. So I hope I've helped you understand a little bit the ways and life of Cherokees, what we did, what we believed in, and what we didn't believe in, and why we did things a certain way. Again, if you hadn't been to the council house, that will be your next stop. You'll hear about our government and more of our 7 clans, and also our marriage ceremonies. And those that have been here already and been to the council house, you can go back through and take finished pictures if you like. And again, thank you for coming. Thank you.